After a slew of recent signings, there's a lot of questions going on about whether the Dodgers are bad for baseball. We're going to be discussing that and more today on Mostly Mets. Alright, this is a Mets channel, but today I wanted to make a video about all the things going around, all the things people are saying that the Dodgers are ruining baseball. First off, before I get too far into it, uh, if this is your first time here, please subscribe, give me a like, throw a comment in. I'm not afraid to answer comments. We could talk. Even if you've been here before, give me a thumbs up. Anyway, there's been so much talk about how the Dodgers are ruining baseball after signing Sasaki, after signing Tanner Scott, after signing Kirby Yates. They're signing everyone and ruining baseball. They're not ruining baseball. That's number one. There's two different questions really. Are they ruining baseball? No. Is there a problem with baseball? Yes. Everyone knows there's an issue with baseball right now. But it's not the Dodgers. The Dodgers are playing within the rules. Do we like it? No, we don't like it because it's not our team. If you're the Dodgers, there's no reason you shouldn't love this. You're doing what every team wishes they could do. You're signing the best guys, you're putting together the best team you can. But you also have to understand that they didn't start with a super team. The Dodgers, yes, they've been the number one organization in baseball for 15 years. For 15 years, they've been first place every year. They dominate. They don't always win the World Series. We could talk about that too. Just building a super team doesn't guarantee you winning a World Series. But they developed their own players. They brought them through the system. The good ones that they wanted to keep, they kept. The ones that they didn't want to keep, they let go and replaced them with someone better. That's all you can ask your team to do. If the Mets were doing that, we'd be ecstatic, right? We get mad that they're might be letting Pete Alonso walk away because they're not replacing him with anyone. But maybe they are replacing him with someone. Maybe we're looking at Vladdy Jr. We don't want to tie up first base because that's a free agent we're going after this season, or we're trying to trade for him. So that's what the Dodgers have done. They're not going to let the fact that they already have someone out of position stop them from going somewhere else, but they're also going to develop their own guys and hope that they don't have to sign someone else. They're not afraid to spend money when they need to, but they spend it on the guys that they want, on guys who fit their culture, who fit their team. They don't just sign the best free agents every year. You forget that, or people forget that they didn't sign Betts, Otani, Freeman all in the same offseason. It happened over the course of years. They've gotten better every year. And this has been really a 10-year process of transitioning from their older players to building a team that has great players at every position, basically. You look at when they had Bellinger, he won an MVP. He regressed, and they let him go. Justin Turner, he was great. They picked him up from the Mets for nothing. The Mets gave him up. They picked him up. They developed him. When he regressed, they let him go. That's what the best organizations do. The Dodgers do it better. They know better when someone's done than anyone else. Their only real mistake was Chris Taylor. They signed him to a pretty long-term deal, and he's regressed to the point where he's not really a useful player anymore. But they're smart about what free agents who they spend money on. When they traded for Betts, why did Boston trade him? Right? Boston, who's another wealthy team, decided they didn't want Mookie Betts. Is that the Dodgers' fault? Is it the Dodgers' fault that the Red Sox decided they didn't want Mookie Betts? Is it the Dodgers' fault that Freddie Freeman wanted to go back to the Braves, cried when he left, When he played the Braves for the first time, he was crying because he was a Brave and the Braves didn't bring him back. Is that the Dodgers' fault? I mean, Ohtani, is it the Dodgers' fault that Ohtani dreamed of playing for the Dodgers? That he went to them and said, if you offer me this, I'll sign with you? Is that the Dodgers' fault? I don't get the narrative that the Dodgers are ruining baseball. I do get that there's a problem with baseball. Obviously, a handful of teams make more money than the bottom 15, 20 teams, which is, hey, you could say the same thing about anything. You can say that about the country. A handful of people make more than 90% of the people. Yeah, that's kind of what capitalism is. That's the system we have. For better, for worse, that's what we have. And I don't see that changing. So you have to play within the rules that you're given. The Marlins are never going to make as much as the Dodgers. A team in Pittsburgh is never going to make as much as a team in New York. It's just the way the world works. Doesn't mean you can't build a great team. You just have to work a little bit harder and a little bit differently to make it happen. So they're playing within the rules. I do question some of the Japanese signings, right? So I don't there's no way to fix it. You can't go to the Dodgers and say you're not allowed to sign any Japanese players. Just like you couldn't go to the Yankees and say you're not allowed to sign any more players from the Dominican Republic. You just can't do it. There's no way to enforce it, and you just look like an idiot like you can't do it. And it seems like the Japanese players just want to play there. Which it seems like everyone just wants to play there. You look at Teoscar Hernandez, who clearly loved his time there. He was offered a contract by other teams. The Mets had an offer on him. He chose to go back to the Dodgers, even for more. There's rumors he had more money from other teams, including the Mets. He chose to go back to the Dodgers. Tanner Scott, it's reported that he had higher offers from other teams. He chose to go to the Dodgers. Is that the Dodgers' fault? No. They get preferential treatment because they win and because they're a great organization. They're what the Yankees think they are, basically. The Yankees talk about the pinstripes, and the people don't want to go there. They want to go to LA and play for the Dodgers. They don't want to go to the Mets either. I'm not saying that they would choose the Mets over the Yankees in every situation. But they're not choosing either. They want to go to the LA. At least right now. That can change. They're playing within the rules. The rules are. You can't even do anything about the rules. You can't. I, I also get the fact that the bottom portion of the teams are also run by billionaires. So you can spend money. There's nothing that says you can't go into your own pocket for a little while to eventually make money. Right? Steve Cohen goes into his own pockets to own the Mets. People talk about how rich he is, $15 billion, $20 billion. He loses money with the Mets. Not on paper wise, right? If you look at how much they bring in versus payroll, he makes $200 million, but he puts that back into the team plus more. Stadium upgrades, different thing. He puts that back in. If he breaks even, he's happy. So he's willing to go into his own pocket to sign a guy. But the bottom, I'll just say a random team, the Pirates owner, I don't even know who that is or if he's a billionaire, but I'm sure he is because they all are. Why couldn't he go into his own pocket to sign a player that's going to then bring more people to the ballpark, bring more jersey sales, bring more merchandise sales? Right? I'm not saying Juan Soto, you're going to spend $800 million on a player. Yeah, sure, that's never going to happen. But why couldn't you sign a guy for 2 or 300 million? Why couldn't you have signed Trey Turner? Right? When Trey Turner was a free agent, he was very popular. You don't think it would have brought excitement to a team like Pittsburgh or a team like even the Marlins? Now, I'm sure Trey Turner doesn't want to go to Pittsburgh. He doesn't want to go to the Marlins, but that's because they don't spend money and don't try to win. If all of a sudden one of those owners decided to go for it, right? Let's go out there. Let's put together a presentation to give to these free agents about how much we want to win, and we're going to give you the most money. Come here, and they build something, and then maybe you take that jump, right? I'm not saying you're ever going to make $600 million a year like the Dodgers do, but could you break even or make a little bit of a profit? Maybe. I also blame the big owners who don't spend a lot of money. Steve Cohen is willing to spend money every year, right? He puts his money where his mouth is. They put rules in so that he can't spend an obscene amount every year. What the Yankees don't do that. The Yankees have a high payroll, but they should have a higher payroll than anyone. They make 3 times what the Mets do every year. On paper, make 3 times what the Mets do. Why don't they spend more money? There's, you know, Pete Alonso's sitting out there. I know everybody hates Pete Alonso now. I get it. He's a terrible guy. He tried to make money. Oh, he's an idiot, right? I get it. Everyone hates him. But Pete Alonso's out there, and instead of going after him, the Yankees go out and get Paul Goldschmidt. Why don't they spend the money, right? So the same teams that are complaining about the Dodgers and what the Dodgers are doing aren't willing to spend like the Dodgers. They're not willing to put the risk out there that the Dodgers do. So if you're going to complain about it, you have the option to do something about it, especially if you're one of those top level teams. Red Sox don't spend money. The Cubs don't spend money. Both of those teams are in the top five of making money. They don't. What do they spend? They're not in the top five of payroll. So I get that people want to just come down on the Dodgers. They're just doing what everyone else can do. At least the top, 5 or 10 teams can do. So now I just want to switch a little bit into how I think it affects or how this all has to do with the Mets, right? The Mets are trying to build what the Dodgers already have. If you go back and think, the Dodgers originally started back in 2014, 2015. Even if you want to go further back than that, they've been good for longer than that. They originally did it with their own guys. They brought up Bellinger. They went and got Muncy, right? They got Clayton Kershaw. They had Tony Gonsolin. They did it with their own guys. And as those guys have aged out, and as those guys have regressed, they've moved on. The Mets are in the infancy stages of that, right? They have their Andrew Friedman and David Stearns, their Ivy League small market GM who now has money. Friedman started with the Dodgers in 2014. Stearns just got here last year. He's had to build an organization from scratch. When Steve Cohen got in here, sure, he started putting people in place who knew what they were doing and building out departments and scouting and, all that kind of stuff. But Stearns is the baseball mind. Steve Cohen is the business mind. David Stearns is the baseball mind. That's why he's here. He had to from the start redo the farm system, which it, to be fair, did start before he got there. But Epler did that. Stearns was probably running the show there. We don't know for sure, but there's rumors that Stearns was speaking to Epler and Cohen about what they should do, because he knew he was going to be hired. We don't know that, but we know that. But building out the farm system, building out the scouting department, building out player development, while also still trying to compete. That's what Stearns is doing right now. That's what the Dodgers did. That's what Stearns is doing now for the Mets. So, patience, unfortunately, is required here. The Dodgers didn't become a juggernaut overnight. They went with their own guys, then they traded for Betts, then they signed Freeman, then they got Ohtani, then they got Yamamoto, then they got Sasaki, and in the meantime, we're also bringing in other guys. So it's going to take. We're not going to be the Dodgers next year. We never were. If you watch them in the NLCS, we were miles away from them. Do you honestly think if we brought back Alonso and got Santander, even if we got Burns and Enfried, we'd have a $400 million payroll and still wouldn't be as good as the Dodgers. So just throwing money at it isn't going to work. And I've seen a lot of people say, this isn't what we were promised when Steve Cohen bought the team. He should be spending more than anyone else. And we were promised a World Series within 5 years. And first of all, he walked that comment back and said, I wish I never said that because it's very hard to win in baseball. And you can't just throw money at a situation. If it was that easy, he would just do it. So he's trying to do it the smart way. He tried with Epler. He tried the throw the money at the situation card, and it didn't work. We ended up with Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander. And Starling Marte. I love Starling Marte. I actually like him as a player, but not anymore. He's 40 years old, and his game is speed. So it's time to move on to smart moves like the Dodgers make. Dodgers make smart moves. What's a free agent or a trade that they've made that hasn't worked out in their favor? I don't think there is one. Maybe Chris Taylor. That's about it. So I think it's very difficult. And I think I've changed my mind on Stearns and the Mets plan about 3 or 4 times this offseason. But I think this is what I'm sticking with. I'm going to trust the process. I think we need to trust Stearns moving forward and know that there is a plan, and we just don't know what it is. I don't know what the plan is. I can say I think I know what the plan is, but then it could change. So I don't know. You don't know. I don't know. We're just talking. The only people that know are Steve Cohen and David Stearns. That's it. So we can all be on Twitter or X all day arguing over the merits of Pete Alonso and why didn't we sign Burns and Frankie Montas sucks, and it doesn't matter. We'll see what happens. We don't know. So, in conclusion here, as I'm rambling on, the Dodgers are not ruining baseball. But there is a problem with baseball. The problem with baseball is that the top 5 teams are the only ones who can really win. And now out of that, only really the best team is going to win, unless they have injuries. All things being equal, if everyone stays healthy and everyone performs at their level, there's not a team that can even come close to beating the Dodgers. I know Yankee fans think that they can do it. Yankee fans are going to have a cakewalk in the American League. They're going to get to the World Series no problem. And then they're going to get smacked by the Dodgers like everyone else is going to. So that's really the Dodgers doing nothing wrong. But we probably will have a labor issue here in a couple years because something has to change in baseball. Anyway, I hope that came off as clear as it did in my own head. But anyway, until next time, please like, subscribe, throw a comment in there. Tell me if you think I'm right. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. And until next time, let's go Mets.